today changes my whole entire life.
Welcome to Gritability, a podcast about the power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams. I'm your podcast host, Adam Clausen, and with me in the studio today is the beautiful and ever radiant Ro Clausen.
Hello, I'm excited for today. I'm excited for today's guest, who I literally just met a couple of seconds ago, although I've heard so much about him. And I have to say, I am really excited for this interview because right before we left the house, you were on the phone with him on speaker. And he said one of the greatest quotes that I had never heard. He said, right before he was released from prison, and this is not verbatim, so he'll have to correct me, but something along the lines of, I was given the gift of desperation, and that's what set forth change into motion. And I was like, whoa, that gave me the chills. So I want to unpack that with him as we progress through the interview, but I'll throw it back to you to introduce him.
What a great introduction, right? Because as soon as you heard that, she started texting, and I didn't know what she was doing at the time, but she was sending that quote to me in a text. So look at this. You're already having an impact. And everyone who's tuning in today, I want to introduce you to my friend, Jason Inserra.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much for the privilege of being allowed to come on the show, And a lot of times when people hear that gift of pain and desperation, it's like, what does that really even mean, And so I think about all those times when the consequences were great, when the negative emotions, the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, the remorse, the regret, when those negative emotions were just raining so heavy on me, and I had some willingness to want to do something different. And maybe I went to treatment, maybe I went to detox, maybe I made some changes, but a lot of the times I got relief, not recovery. But this last time when I was given that gift of pain and desperation, had the willingness to want to do something different, I did. And fast forward almost 6 years later, and it's a miracle what my life has become. So thank you for having me on today.
Of course, and what a great way to look at that too, because how many people play the victim and they would never look at pain and desperation as, quote, a gift? Where, it's the world, it's this person, it's that person, it's the circumstances. And you're looking at it as, I was given this gift and now what am I going to do with it? How beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that fact because recently there's been a lot of, whenever we talk about prison and people are highlighting all of the negative things on the inside, and it's important that we shine some light on that. But what we love to do is shine some light on the stories of hope and inspiration, individuals who have transformed their lives and who have inspired others to do the same. So I know you have an amazing story, and I really want to make sure that our listeners get an opportunity to hear about your transformation. But we always like to start with the backstory. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and kind of prior to you ending up, in trouble, in prison. Tell us a little bit of that backstory. Where were you and what were you doing?
Yeah, so just a little quick history on me, I'm from Arizona and big Italian family, right? Everything that comes with that. But I come from a great home. My parents are still married. They love me. They've supported me through every single thing that I've been through. I have a loving wife, tons of different support. And when I look over my childhood and really had an opportunity to reflect on it, I look at some really pivotal moments that really were some important things in my life. Like the first moment would probably be in eighth grade. My parents let me have a graduation party, and high school kids came to my eighth grade party, and I immediately started this seeking validation through others, ego, wanting to be liked, and that became a constant theme throughout my life.
Hold on,
but
real quick. I want to stay with that for a second because I think that's a pivotal point. You keyed in on, for a lot of young people making those decisions, seeking that validation. What did that look like for you? You said some high school kids showed up. What do you mean? What kind of validation were you seeking?
Yeah, just wanting to be liked. I think everyone wants to be liked. I wasn't always the coolest kid, but If I had the house that had the parties, my parents traveled a lot. So we had a home that I was able to put it this way. If my parents were gone for longer than 3 hours in high school, I was having a full scale party with a keg, jungle juice. I got 17 minor consumptions of alcohol in high school. The police used to just patrol, our neighborhood. Just it would keep them busy for the rest of the night every weekend, just about. So I look over those moments and I think about, the consequences. And a lot of people, when they experience consequences, they'll want to change. But for me, they didn't even phase me. They weren't great enough yet. And the consequences start to pile up later as we go on. But when I look over my addiction, I suffer from the alcoholic mentality, the disease of addiction. And so that's character defects, lying, cheating, manipulating, stealing. Those are the main characteristics of my alcoholic mentality. And that's what high school looked like for me. Making fake report cards so I wasn't grounded, calling the phone company and blocking the phone number so they couldn't tell my parents I missed any classes, sneaking out all the time. But I'm a soccer player and I play sports, and that was such a big theme throughout my whole life. Was always playing sports. But I look back at that moment in 8th grade when I had those kids there at my party, and I wanted to be liked. And from there, I will compromise my own needs and wants and validation. Later on in my story, I talk more about selling drugs and that being just a brief part of it. But I never sold drugs because I wanted you to like me so much. I would give you such a good deal. I was always hustling backwards because I wanted you to call me and like me.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing is you were definitely the life of the party, right? And I appreciate you going back and sharing that part, about your parents being away and that being the house and, everybody else gravitating towards you. So I could definitely visualize that. I could see it all. And, some of the ingenuity, even at a young age, to figure out how to get around getting in trouble. And although you pointed out those aspects of addiction, that the negative characteristics, but I would also suggest that most addicts hopefully will acknowledge that there's also, part of being an addict. And I say this, I have my own tendencies that are a bit obsessive, compulsive, and when channeled, given a positive direction for those other attributes, they tend to serve us well. And it sounds like, even though you are using them in a negative way, even from an early age, you were kind of figuring out how to make the most of your talents, right?
I heard the same thing because, I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you're around our age. And for people listening, it's not easy. It was not easy back then to call the phone company and to block numbers. It's not like you just go on Google and put something in back then. I'm listening and I'm like, damn, he was an entrepreneur even back when he was doing things
Yeah, we're talking about making fake IDs when you could take, masking tape, a laser printer, some nail polish remover, slap a piece of tape over it. We're talking about going to Staples, finding report card paper, getting on, back then the dial up and making from scratch your own report card to reflect what it looks like, posing as my dad with the phone company, all because I wanted to continue to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the life of the party. I wanted to play sports. Yeah, I wanted to go to college and do all that just so I could play sports, but I was more concerned about partying. I experimented with every single kind of drug you could possibly think of. Now it came time for me to graduate. I had to tell my parents I didn't have a 3.8 GPA. I had a 2.4, right? And now I have soccer scholarships all across the country, but I don't have the grades to get into school. So my parents hired me an SAT tutor. For 3 months, we study and we study and we study. And I know that I have to take this SAT test. Everything is riding on this SAT test. My parents go out of town. I have a party. Someone gives me some acid for a cup at the party. And I know that if I take this acid right now and I have to go take this test in the morning, I'm not going to score well. But that's the baffling part of addiction. The baffling feature is the utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. I could see the need in every aspect of my life. I could wish it, I could pray it, but I can't not do it. And so naturally, I took the acid right before the test. I got in there. It got weird. I didn't score very well, and I didn't get into a Division I college yet.
So,
wow.
yeah, I can totally relate. I took the SATs quite a few times. For much of the same reason, not being able to, go home, get a good night's sleep, and get my stuff together because I was just same thing, wanted to party all the time, such a mess.
Yeah.
But it sounds like what I'm hearing is that athletics, soccer, like really helped kind of get you
For
through.
sure.
But how
For
did that
sure. So,
how did that fit in when you were still doing all those other things?
well, here's the thing, I was the captain of every team I've ever been on, high school, college, club soccer, traveled all across the country, Australia, overseas a bit. And on the field, I'm an excellent leader, but off the field, the problem is I care more about having a good time and being the life of the party that I didn't lead very well off the field. But what I did learn is a lot of leadership skills. I learned a lot about building a team. What makes a leader is how many leaders you can turn out. And that's what my mission is today. At the previous company, the reentry company that we met through, that has now 300 clients that we built in the last 6 months, 500 coming over the next 2 years. It's that perseverance, it's that leadership, it's that teamwork, it's the dedication, it's the camaraderie, it's all the things that I learned on the soccer field. Now I'm able to carry those in my relationships, professionally, in all the things. After I ended up graduating from high school, I took a soccer scholarship to Phoenix College, right? And right before I started it, I got pulled over and I had some weed on me and I had a gun because naturally, remember, I'm from like the upper middle class, but I roll around with a gun, a drug dealer, and I bump Biggie Smalls all day long in my Toyota Camry because I'm so hood. You know what I mean? Like I'm just gangster, right? And I end up getting pulled over and I catch my first case and I got released and I got put on probation. Shortly after that, I got an aggravated extreme DUI. I hit a stop sign, a light pole, and a house. I blew a .29, and that was a Wednesday morning. Almost
And
killed a family.
and
And
just
when I woke up and
yeah,
go ahead,
yeah, for anybody, what's the legal limit?
.008 or something,
Point
probably.
zero zero eight, and you had a two what?
.28, yeah,
Whew.
yeah. It was a wild Tuesday night, and I woke up when my vehicle went through their house and I ended up in their pool in their backyard.
Oh my God.
And when I woke up in the hospital, I was cuffed to the bed. My parents were there. They're always there. My dad looks at my mom. He's alive. Let's go. The cop comes in, uncuffs me, and I look at the ticket, and the ticket is all written out in my fake ID's name, Matt McCarty. I owe that dude an amends. If I ever run into him, I owe that guy an amends. But that DUI did catch up with me later on down the road. So now I start to play soccer at Phoenix College. I'm the captain of the team, but off the field, I'm an idiot. I take the whole team. I get the captain's armband. Here's a little snapshot of that. I get the captain's armband. I'm a freshman, right? Pretty big deal. I decide I'm going to take a team building trip to Crown King, Arizona. We're going to go camping. We're going to get to know each other. We're going to build camaraderie. The best way I know how to do that, Adam, maybe you know the same way. Take mushrooms. That's what I know. And we lose 2 players in the forest at Crown King for 2 days. We had to call the off-duty firefighters, our coach, the parents, everything.
Oh, Jesus.
And we found them. They were alive. But that's just, one of the many examples. But on the field, I did my thing. That's the truth.
Wait, I have a question. So when you were in the hospital and Matt McCarty got the tickets, did your parents keep their mouth shut? Did they know this?
Yeah, I don't think they knew. They didn't know about it. But they would have kept their mouth shut. They're old school Italians. Come on, Ro, you know what it is.
No, I know exactly. It's why I have so many questions for you. I don't want to interrupt your story, but there's so many similarities between the old school Italians and how we were all raised. So I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I have to ask this question because it's the theme throughout everything that you've said so far has been people pleasing and wanting people to like you. I'm very similar. And I think it does have something to do with how we were raised, which we'll put that aside for a second. But to me, from what I'm hearing so far, is that was like the greatest addiction behind the drugs and the alcohol. So my question is like, once you get sober, right? And again, I'm skipping ahead and I don't want to skip all of these stories, but you can get rid of the drugs and the alcohol and be sober from that. But like, how do you heal the other addiction, which is being addicted to people liking you and people pleasing all the time?
Yeah, I think it's important that connection for me in my path of recovery, a connection to God, a higher power, that's that personal connection that no matter what I take with me, I have to nurture it, maintain it, prayer, meditation, but also that connection is also maintained through experience in life. being present in the relationships, playing sports, coaching soccer like I do today, and my daughter, and having those moments that make me feel good through a connection to something greater than myself. So that gives me that same fulfilling reward. Sometimes I have to love people from a distance, and sometimes I have to remind myself that I'm still people pleasing at times. It's okay to say no. I don't have to take on every sponsee in the world when I don't have any time to have more than one. So it's tough. I still suffer from it.
Yeah, me too. That's why I asked the question.
And where I know what you're getting at with the Italian thing, because I'm a mama's boy. I always want to please mom, right? And mom always had greater things for me. And I heard the word potential quite often, and all these times, I things would look great from the outside. I'm the captain of the soccer team. I have good grades now. I'm getting ready to graduate. Shortly before I graduate from Phoenix College, I decide I'm going to take a trip to spring break, and I'm on probation for the weed and the gun and all the things. And my PO, my probation officer, tells me I can't go. I'm like, he'll never remember. I go to Miami. He remembers. He calls me, says, you got to report tomorrow or I'm going to violate you. So when I came back and I graduated from Phoenix College, I was also now in a violation of probation. And I had that aggravated DUI just out there as well. So now I have soccer scholarships all across the country. But the problem is when they want to show you how good the school is, they want to throw you a party. Well, I've always been a blackout drinker, fight you, pee in the corner, think I'm in the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like get lost, call all the women in my phone and leave a weird ass voice message. Like, you know what I mean? Like, heroin killed my alcoholism. I'm kidding, but I just couldn't afford to do anything else.
Wow.
But so now I'm on a violation. I end up graduating, and now I got soccer scholarships. But when they fly me out there, or I go out there for these schools, I get blacked out drunk. I find a rave. I'm asking for cocaine. Where the girls' house at? I don't even show up to the games. I do. I'm still intoxicated, and I play well. But the truth is, coaches didn't really want to take a chance on me. I was a mess.
Wow.
So I come back and there was a coach here, Grand Canyon University. I was going to sign a soccer scholarship. So I get my poor, sweet, 5'0" Italian mom. And I tell her, hey, mom, you're going to be so proud of me. You're going to come with me. I'm going to sign the soccer scholarship. And I get there and he says, Mrs. Inserra, I'm glad you're here. I'm not here to offer your son a scholarship. I actually have a treatment center out front. He was at a soccer party last weekend selling cocaine and weed and didn't realize the assistant coach was there. I
What'd
didn't
your
go
mom
to
do?
treatment. She cried.
Man.
Again, cried.
Yeah.
That's what makes today so special. Having the ability to contribute to my mom's life. I'm sweating over here because I'm getting fired up and be foaming at the mouth like a pit bull in a minute. But, like I get to contribute to their life today. And that's so important, to me. So I end up taking a soccer scholarship in California. Coach takes a chance on me. I get hurt and I get put on prescription pain medication. And that's what starts the new journey,
What kind of injury was it?
I had an ACL injury.
Oof. Yep.
And then about maybe 30 days after the surgery, I was in Crown King camping at that same camp spot. I lost those two players of mine. And I tried to jump over the campfire with my hurt knee, and I jumped into the campfire and I burnt all the skin off my arm.
Oh my God.
And I had to be flown to the burn clinic. And they gave me prescription pain medication at the same time for that as well. So I was double dipping.
So, and that's where things, that's where things took a turn for even worse, presumably.
And so here's the thing. And the reason why I told you lie, cheat, manipulate, steal, like that's my addiction right there. Well, the only job I've ever had previous to what I do today in behavioral health and reentry, I was a telemarketer. Bro, like that's the job. Lie, cheat, steal, like that's what we did for work. So when I start to look at these character defects, for me, my path of recovery, I'm a 12-step guy. When I look at step 6 and having the willingness to let go of these character defects, it's extremely hard because for 20 plus years, those character defects were assets to my addiction.
Sure.
Now I have to be honest and all these things, and it makes it difficult,
So tell us where does the telemarketing come in
well, the telemarketing, I'm a quick talker, right? And it was a job where you could party and work. Like we smoke weed at our desk, and I learned telemarketing. I worked at a ton of different places. I've had 3 different telemarketing companies. When I came back after, so what ends up happening is I get hurt, I burn my arm, I come back to Tempe, I'm going to go to ASU, I'm going to finish my degree. I end up getting into the telemarketing business in the alarm company with ADT. I was a licensed pro dealer for ADT. And so I started selling alarm systems and never finished my degree, right? Now I'm on prescription pain medication and I'm eating at this point about 100 Percocets a day.
Oh,
Fives,
Wow.
10s, 7.5s. I'm eating 30 in the morning, at lunch, no water, straight chewing them up like Skittles.
wow.
And so I had my own telemarketing company, so I made my own job applications, and on the application I put an extra question: are you on any prescription medication? Check yes or no. Right, so they're like, yeah. I'm like, what do you got? What do you get? I pulled the x-ray out of my desk, my knee, how the doctors are, I'll buy all of them, right?
Wow.
And so
This
now,
this was
I'm
this was part of your interview process.
this part of my interview process. Yeah.
But once
Wow.
again, like, okay, obviously not the right thing to do, but what an entrepreneur. Like, to think of these things, I'm not saying it's right, but like the thought, like, this is before TikTok where people tell you what to do. This is when you had to actually think and do this on your own. Wow. It just speaks to the intelligence.
And so my wife, before we jumped on the podcast, she's like, all these traits you've had through everything that you've done, now today you get to utilize them. It's such a grand way to
Yeah.
help so many people. It's amazing to see. We've been married for 14 years. She's been through so much with me, and the life we get to share today is just it's crazy. So
Well, obviously, and we very much want to hear about that aspect as well. Because, like, at what point does she come in, and how much of the craziness has she gotten
oh
to see
God.
or
So yeah,
experience?
I'll speed it up just a little bit here because there's a lot. But what ends up happening is I have a telemarketing company. I have about 40 employees. We're doing alarm systems. I'm eating as many pills as I could eat. Someone turns me on to 80 milligram Oxycontins because it's going to be cheaper, right? And it's cheaper for like 3 days. And I end up meeting this guy, and he has the cheapest ones in town. And finally, I ask him how, and he's like, "Let me show you." He pulls out this pad. He takes a
Mm,
pen, he writes a script out, he goes into Fry's pharmacy. We smoke a joint together in the parking lot. He comes back out and he's got 180 milligram Oxycons for $116. And I said, hold up, bro. So what ends up happening is I end up impersonating 16 doctors over the next 2-year period, closed my company down. I had every doctor's signature and DEA number in Arizona. I can talk about it today because I've already been charged for it. And I went on for the next, 2 years, just selling scripts and impersonating doctors, and just
Wow.
traveling and partying. And then I'm Italian. Italy wins the World Cup in 2006. I'm a soccer guy. It's the greatest day in the world. I tell all my friends I'll be right back. I'm going to go fill a script. And I didn't follow any of my rules. And I got arrested. When I got arrested, I had 7 scripts in my wallet already written out. Plus, I'm on the violation of probation. Plus, I have that aggravated extreme DUI out there. So now I'm going to jail.
yeah, at,
Yeah.
at, at that point, it got real very quick. So they take you in at that point, and do you
Yeah.
do you
Yeah. So
realize like how serious it is at this point?
yeah, I realized I don't have a bond. And then over the next 6-month period while I'm in jail, I get page 2'd, which means you got another case. You have to go all the way back through the court process. I started out with 6 counts of forgery and I ended with 283 counts of forgery. And
Jeez.
those were all the prescriptions I wrote in my own name because I'm super smart. I'm slick. So. And so this was back in 2002, 3, and 4, right? So I'm 41. And so when the doctor back then, the pharmacies weren't linked, so they wouldn't know that I was at 3
Yeah.
different Fry's pharmacies today. So there was a detective that was going around every pharmacy. Have you filled any scripts for this name? If so, I would catch new cases. So finally, when it was all said and done, after sitting in county jail, I ended up getting a 3.5-year prison sentence, and I went to prison in 2006. I went to Douglas. I did all my time out there. I found these things called push-ups. I don't know if you've heard of them. I thought that if I just did push-ups and was a solid wood, another story, another time. That's what they call the white boys. I'm Italian. It's confusing. But I had hopes and dreams when I got out, but I didn't change a damn thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
So tell me about how that was that time when you went in. Like, you go in, obviously you were doing massive amounts of opioids at this time? Like,
Oh my God, dude! I mean, by this time I had been through county jail enough to tell them that I drink a 20 pack of bottles and I'm on Xanax. So this way they give me a benzo taper. So it helps a little bit, but I'll tell you about withdrawal. It's 80-20 in my opinion. It's 80% mental and 20% physical. I've
okay.
tried to
Really?
detox on the streets a million times. And when I know that I can get it, dude, I'm losing my damn mind. But when I'm in jail, I'm in a cell, dude, I know I'm not getting it. It's not that bad. It's not as bad,
Wow.
in my opinion. I've been through it a lot of times. But I end up catching it, I get back in, I start to feel again, I start to get some weight, I start to sleep, I start to eat, but it takes a very long time. We're talking about hallucinations for 30 days,
Oof.
not being able to keep any food down, all the things. Going number 4, you know what that is? Another show, another time is what that is.
Well, that's, no, it's important, man, because, yesterday, conversation that we had on here, a lot of times when we start talking about prison, not all of our audience is going to understand. So I appreciate you taking the time to kind of walk through
Yeah.
what that detox is like. And, for most people, they only know what they see on TV.
Right.
And I've seen some pretty gruesome withdrawals, the after effects of a cell when somebody's been in there detoxing and they've just locked themselves in there for a week. And listen, like you got to go in there with hazmat suit to try and clean that
Yeah.
thing out. And it's rough. Like,
Yeah. Smelling like a J. John at Woodstock. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
bad, and I get out after doing that time. I'm on probation. I'm doing good. I end up some friends of some family back east in New York ended up having a job for me when I got out. I started doing door-to-door sales for Auto Glass. I was running an 80-person door team, and that's where I met my wife in 2009 when I got out of prison. I'm making good money. Things are great. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I get the Mercedes. I buy the condo. I put the money in the bank, and then I get off probation, right? And I'll tell you this, the big book tells me this. It says that we can fall victim to a belief which practically every alcoholic has, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline qualifies him to drink like other men. I thought because at this point now, with the prison sentence and being on probation 4.5 years, that I could drink normally. We went to Vegas for one night, me and my best friend, who shout out Baker, who now has 12 years of recovery. But we weren't sober. We went to Vegas, Halloween. He was dressed up as Dog the Bounty Hunter, and I was dressed up as the ShamWow guy. We were there for 24 hours. I woke up, blacked out like the hangover, pissed myself. Baby Carlos wasn't there, and Mike Tyson's Tiger wasn't involved. But I'll tell you what, the same old thing was there, just like it was in college, just like it
Mm.
was in high school, just like that. He was doing something in the bathroom for that 24-hour period. And finally, I said, hey, whatever you got, break it out. And he gave me an 80 milligram Oxycontin, and there it was. But I'm making good money, so I can conceal it for a period of time. I drive a Mercedes, but the problem is I got no insurance. The tags are expired. I put $1.14 in the gas tank 3 times a day, but I get car washes 3 times a week, hands down. Look at me. I look good, right? You know?
Were you married at that point, or you were with your wife? You were
No,
dating your
so
wife?
we had met, we started dating during that period of time, and I had relapsed, and she was a normie to the fullest. When I say that, she doesn't experience craving like I do. Here's an example. When my wife drinks a glass of wine, she's tired, she wants KFC, and if she's really feeling frisky, she'll smoke a cigar, like straight up.
Okay.
And then she ran into me, and she's finding foil and fucking torches and pipes and
Yeah. That's why I
balloons.
asked. Yeah, I was wondering
And
if you
she's
were able to
going,
hide it
"What
from
is
her.
this?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's all stuff I use to smoke weed or spice." She'd be like, "What do you want me to do with it?" I'm like, "Let me see it, keep it, throw it away." Like she had no clue.
Oh,
So when did
Um,
she find out how bad it
so
was?
yeah, so she starts to notice some things, right? Because now we end up moving in together. My addiction is getting worse. Oxycontins are off the market now, so now I'm doing heroin because it's the next thing I could afford. Making 100 grand a year, but I'm broke all the time. We live together, so she's starting to notice that I'm losing a little bit of weight. I'm in the bathroom a lot. When I come out of there, she used to say it smells like burnt barbecue sauce. I got the faucet on, the shower on. I'm double clutching, flushing the toilet so she can't hear the lighter. She's starting to suspect all these things. And finally, what ends up happening is I can't lie about anything anymore. The cat's out the bag. Finally, I get honest with her, and she takes me to detox, and I go to Community Bridges, and I try to get sober. And I went through Community Bridges. I did the 7-day detox. I went to Crossroads Arcadia from there, which I now do all my service work at Crossroads. I've been doing it 3 years now since I came home. Every Saturday and Sunday at 7 p.m., I bring big book studies to the guys. You know,
Very nice. Very nice.
yeah, and so I end up going there, right? My wife's 5 months pregnant. By this time, we have nothing. Like, I have drained everything to the point where we lose our house, we lose everything. She moves in with her parents, 5 months pregnant. I'm in a Crossroads. After 16 days, they let me get a job. We got nothing. Like, she's living with her mom, right? And so they let me get a job after 16 days. I walk to the closest telemarketing company. My first week there, I make a $2,000 check, and I deuces. I leave Crossroads. I get us an apartment, and I stay sober for a period of time, right? Like, I have the baby, my 12-year-old now, Isabella, and now I have a 2-year-old baby girl as well, Gabriella. And things are good. I started another telemarketing company. I'm doing the home-based businesses, shady, another story, another time. And I have this bright idea that I know why all my telemarketers, I got about 40 of them again. I say, I know why you guys are late. You wake up dope sick and you got to go boost and fence and steal and get cashed out and call the dope man. That's why everybody shows up 3 hours late. So this is what we're going to do. You're going to bring me the stolen property. I'm going to cash you out, and then call the dope man, have him meet you in the parking lot. I'll give you a 15-minute break when he gets here, but you got to be on time at 8 a.m. Right. And so I start buying and stolen property. Right. And long story short, I end up buying some computers off an undercover officer. And one day I come home and I check the mail like I do every day. And I look and I have a grand jury indictment for a Class 2 felony, and my heart sinks. Like, I could still feel that feeling of what I could see the sentencing chart in my head. I've already got 7 felony convictions. I got a Class 2 felony. Like, 5 years is a blessing at this point, and I don't even know how to tell my wife.
Oh God. Does she have any idea what's going on at this point, that you're back in the mix, or is she
So
like
I'm
far enough
sober at this period of time. So
Okay.
I've been sober from Arcadia. So about a year and a half now, I was sober at this point, right? And she's asking me, she could tell, like, I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm just so stressed." And I'm going to work every day. I don't even have the heart to run my business, And so I'm just researching my case, trying to figure out, but I hadn't worked a program of recovery. So all I know is identify a problem in my life, contribute to the problem, add to the problem, right? Recovery teaches me identify a problem. It's my job to get to the solution, right? But I don't have recovery. So what do? Relapse on heroin, pick up a new case, find myself sitting in 4th Avenue jail, just violated Class 2 felony, OR, pretrial. I had a ankle bracelet on, and I was on a $35,000 cash only bond for the 3rd case I was released on. And then I caught a heroin possession, and I found myself sitting in 4th Avenue jail in 2014.
Damn.
Yeah. And she stayed with you through this?
She did.
Wow.
And, again, over that period of time when I had relapsed after, getting the case in the mail, she thinks there's 50 grand in the bank, and she's got to borrow $20 to put money on the phone when I'm, downstairs, in 4th Avenue jail, trying to make a Mayday SOS phone call, and she's like, "I'm going to give you one. Tell me everything you've lied to me about. And if you tell me everything now, I'm going to stay with you, And my wife went on. And so what ends up happening, long story short, is they hit me with the repeat offender program. It's a mandatory aggravated sentence. I spend the next year fighting this case in 4th Avenue jail. I get to prison. I think I'm a tough guy, but I can't fight. So I get beat up all the time. So I tried to beat up 2 guys. They should have got the assault charges. I got them, and I ended up getting maxed out. So I spent my time getting an hour out for a year in max custody fighting this case. My wife would come to see me non-contact. My daughter isn't even 2 years old yet. And I'm facing 10 to 25 years all day long.
So real quick, that 1 year, when you say non-contact, what do those visits look like?
Yeah, so at this point, and in the max custody jail, we're all video visits. So it's just video visits. I didn't see her and touch her for almost 2 years at
Oh
that point.
God, that's a long time. And So how do you keep that relationship under those circumstances? How do you keep things going?
Communication, man, and finding ways to connect, and always focusing on the good times that we had, and coming together to what the future is going to look like. She supported me through everything, and today our life is getting to share it together. It's unreal. She picked me up after 7 years. Because what ends up happening is I end up getting an 8-year prison sentence when it's all said and done. I go to prison in 2014. I was on a high custody yard. So it was real to me. I didn't use during that period of time. I find my wife started driving to Tucson every weekend to see me. It's a 2-hour drive. She would come every other weekend. I got moved to Florence, and which is a closer drive. She was coming every weekend, sometimes with my daughter, sometimes with not, so we could have our own time. And I mean, we're writing letters, we're reading books together. We did every single kind of question worksheet you can think of. She made me a newsletter, Adam Rowe, every week for almost 2 years was a new edition. It was called the Inserra Insider, and it would have a snapshot at my daughter. It would have a snapshot at the things that she was doing that would keep me up to speed in her life, to the point that my daughter always knew who I was through the whole entire time, and those are the things that I will always cherish and never forget.
What a beautiful woman. Like, you're talking and I'm fighting back tears
Uh,
because our quote
Yeah.
non-contact was sitting across from each other and not being allowed to touch, which I want to say was terrible, but we got to see each other face to face. And the fact that, excuse me, that you guys were able to get through that is just beautiful. What a beautiful woman. What a
oh
beautiful
man, I mean,
relationship.
and so finally, what ends up happening, is we end up losing our visits because I can't keep my hands to myself. I tell everyone that I was doing push-ups again, and she couldn't keep her hands to herself, but it was.
Uh-oh. We just lost volume.
Hang on one sec. Hang on one sec.
Yeah, for some reason we lost volume here.
Can you hear us? Okay, we lost your audio. Hold on one sec.
Can you hear me?
Now
There
we
we
can.
go.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so you were doing push-ups and you blamed her for doing the
Yeah.
push-ups, but that's the last thing we heard.
Okay, yeah. So what ends up happening is I end up losing our visits because, like I was saying, I tell everyone that I was doing push-ups and she couldn't keep her hands off of me, and so we lost our visits. But it was the other way around. I couldn't keep my hands off of her. I had a bunch of warnings. They hit me with a Class A ticket, and that meant now no phones for 6 months. Then 6 months behind the glass visits.
Oh.
So we're sitting in between glass, and
Yeah.
then or 6 months no visits, and then 6 months behind the glass.
Okay, so I have to ask, like, how serious was the touching? Because, like, there was a point where I touched Adam's leg too high. It was literally like mid-thigh. Like, was it that or
what they could prove? What they could prove is minute. If you've been at visitation, you know what time it is.
I completely understand. I was just wondering if it was bogus.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
It was bogus.
listen, I mean, yeah, it was, and when you come in there and you have a family and you have some things, sometimes you can give off the wrong impression at times, and and it is what it is, right? But again, I don't have recovery, so now there's a problem in my life. The problem is I can't see my wife, and that's what I'm living for, those visits. So now what do? Problem, add to the problem. So now I relapse in prison, and now I go on this next year period. I got a friend that gets out, leaves me a cell phone, tells me to call him the next day, and he starts making drops on the prison yard for me. So now I go on the next year period where I become the dope man on the prison yard. I'm getting ounces of heroin sent into the prison 3 times a week. And just like everything in life, it goes so good till it goes so bad. The guy that was doing the drops for me, he gets arrested. And now I have the worst habit that I've ever had in prison, and it's 1,000 times more expensive now, and I don't got it like that. So, and now I'm running up debts. I'm getting in high-speed foot chases with the cops, but I'm passing all my UAs because I have a catheter. Another show, another time, right? And I'm passing all these UAs. They can't figure it out. So finally they get sick of me. And what they did when they got sick of you in Florence, they would send you to Kingman, Arizona. right? So I get to Kingman, Arizona. I'm strung out. I'm 105 pounds. I gotta poop a softball. Sorry, it's the truth, right? Weeks, and are you there?
Oh, yep. You froze up there for a minute.
I think it's still frozen.
Yeah, you're still frozen on. Uh-oh, did we lose him?
Yeah, I think the
Oh, now
There
you're
you
back.
go.
Oh man, this is bummer. I have to edit this out.
Yeah, no worries. We'll edit it out.
All good.
Am I back?
You're back.
You are
You're
back.
Good. Yep.
I don't
So
know what the problem is.
you had gotten to Kingman.
Yeah, and so I get to Kingman, right? And they tell me you're new to this yard, right? So that means they call it blocks. That means no drug transactions, no moves, you can't get on the cell phone. For 30 days, we want to see how you act, right? And I look at him and I'm
Who-
like, dude, I'm strung out, right?
Who's telling you this? Just to clarify, who's telling you this?
Another inmate that's the head of the white boys,
Okay.
and
Yep.
he's telling me, look, you can't do X, Y, and Z. We're going to keep an eye on you, right? And I'm telling him, look, I'm strung out. I heard that heroin was cheaper here, so where's the cell phone at? Like, and he looked at me in my eyes and he's like, you're going to have a really hard time here. And I could laugh about it today, but I got a scar above my eye from that ass whooping I took that day. My two front teeth are still sensitive to hot and cold from having to hold them forward. I thought I was going to lose them almost going on 6 years later. I got beat up about I was penciling ass whoopings right into my day. I'm going to wake up, get beat up. Then I'm going to go try to get high. Then I'm going to dodge the yard until, head count at 8 p.m. And then when everyone goes to sleep, I'm going to get high because I'm not supposed to be. And then what would happen is I would smoke spice and I would straight wig out and start screaming in the middle of the 3 o'clock in the morning in front of 100 people, right? Things like that. I became the guy I used to talk shit about, right? And finally, I end up calling out that head of the building who kept sending these dudes in to beat me up for every little thing that I did wrong. I called him out and told him to handle his business like a man, and he did. And he got me pretty good. And I left blood on the floor, and the cops saw it when they did their walk, and they locked the pod down. And when they see blood, they do knuckle body checks. So they strip you down to your boxers, and they look at your hands and your body, and you spin around to see if you've been in any altercations. Well, they looked at me, and I've been in 17 fights, and I was 0-17. So he's like, "Oh shit!" and cuffed me up, took me to the hole. And anytime I speak, whether it's, for AA, whether it's at corporate events, whether it's on my podcast, whatever it looks like, this is the gift of pain and desperation right here. And so I end up going to the hole. I have to take a UA. I try to finesse the UA by cheating it. Doesn't work. Now I fail a UA. So now I lose my visits for another year. So when we're talking about maintaining that connection, there was a 2-year period of time where I saw my wife twice and spoke to her other than 3-way calls and an occasional phone call, maybe a handful of times. And it was all letters, So, and so now I'm in the hole, right? And
how's she dealing with this? How did she deal with the separation? What was in those letters?
Did she, did she know that you were using at this point again?
So I'm lying to her. She could hear it. I'm asking her for money. She comes to visit when she could see me, or, non-contact, and I'm 30 pounds lighter, and she's going, "You're not eating any of the food that I'm sending you," and then I end up getting that dirty UA, and I know that my phones are going to be off for a year, and I know this, and I know I can get 1 10-minute phone call, and I have to get it before Sunday night at 10 o'clock. I'm in the hole. It's extremely hard by myself, single man cell. And I'm banging on the door every time a cop does a walk every 15 minutes. Phone call, phone call, phone call. A week goes by. Finally, 10 p.m. that Sunday night, and I didn't get that phone call. I straight lost my mind. I freaked out. I became the dude who shits, spits, kicks the door, not the shit part. I take that back. But I flooded the cell. I banged on the door. I screamed. The cops came, but they didn't bring the phone. They brought the cell extract team, and they extracted me out of that cell, and they put me in a restraint chair. And I remember sitting there with a spit mask on in a restraint chair in a porter closet, basically like the electrical chair with belts around it to hold crashing down because that's how insane I became. And I sat there for hours and I cried in that closet. And I just thought about what my life had become. Finally, they dumped me on the ground back into that cell, and I laid there on the ground and I had some really big realizations. The first one is love is an action word. I used to tell my wife, hey, babe, I need you to send me a Western Union. I need a food box. Bring some quarters to visit. I love you. And she'd be like, shut up. You don't love me. And I couldn't believe she had the audacity to even say that to me. But love is an action word. I love my wife, but I'm bleeding her dry. I love my daughter, but I haven't seen her in 2 years because I want to get high on the yard, sell drugs, and be liked and still live that lifestyle. But I love you. I did the same thing to every family member in my life. Love is an action word, and my actions at that moment reflected that I hated those people in my life. And in that moment, it became unacceptable to me. I also had another realization that I became the dude I used to talk shit about. And that became unacceptable. I had 3 years left on my prison sentence. My wife served me divorce papers. My parents blocked the phone number, so I couldn't even call from the prison anymore. I didn't have a friend in the world. I'm in a hole in Kingman, Arizona, and I sat there for 6 months doing push-ups. I could only hear my neighbor's TV, and he had TBN on, Christian music, and I would listen, I would pray, and I would cry, and I had the willingness, and I had that gift of pain and desperation. And when it was time for me to get transferred, by the grace of God, they sent me back to Florence North Unit, where I was the dope man before I left. And when I got there, some really big things happened to me. A lot of the guys that I was getting high with had found recovery. And there was one guy in particular, Josh S. I had owed him some money before they moved me, and I just wanted to apologize to him, and he said, you want to make it right, come to a meeting. And I walked into that 12-step meeting at Florence North Unit, about 10 inmates in that meeting and 3 outside volunteers. And when I looked in there, I seen a bunch of people that I knew were just as bad as me, and they were visual proof. The big book talks about it. From a trembling, despairing, nervous wreck emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. I knew these dudes were as bad as me. And now I barely recognize them, the look in their eye, how high they hold their head, the tone of their voice. I knew that if they can do it too, that I could do it. And I got my feet moving from that day, and my life has changed. That was February 4th of 2018.
Wow. How much time did you have left inside
I had
at
three
this point?
years left at that point, right?
Okay.
And so now I get a sponsor, and I immediately get a sponsor after that meeting. I start working the steps, right? I start to understand the mental obsession, the physical allergy. I start to understand this higher power thing and the application process, how to use this power in my life by coupling my actions with the will of this power, which is positivity, gratitude, selflessness, character assets. That's God. Let my actions reflect it to the best of my abilities each day. And I'm making a decision in step 3. I'm a 12-step guy. A decision in step 3 to let my actions reflect it. The 4th step gave me the ability to look at resentments, personal relationships, to understand why I kept using drugs and alcohol, despite all the evidence in my life showing me that, dude, this ain't going to work out well for you. You cannot use drugs and alcohol without consequences, player. You need to stop. But I couldn't get there yet, and I got honest in the 5th step, and I had this complete psychic change. So now over the next 3-year period, I began to teach the substance abuse moderate treatment drug class. I went on to teach it from start to finish. It was a 6-month class. I worked with over 4,000 inmates over the next 3 years. I went on to sponsor the whole yard, over 100 men. At that project where Adam and I met at New Life Wellness, right now there's 25 guys that are peer supports that I sponsored in prison. I looked them in the eye and I told them, when we get out, we're going to help each other. We're going to do it together. And we've been doing it now, and they're all over there. There's 300 reentry clients there right now with those same guys I sponsored back in 2019. I only played a small part in that.
Man,
It's just the power in it.
that's
The
amazing.
same cops that sent me to Kingman, allowed me to speak to every newcomer at orientation and offer the hand of recovery to them. It's a miracle. And I got released March 19th, 2021, after doing 7 years on an 8-year prison sentence.
Whew. Come back to that real quick, because I understand the significance of A&O admissions and orientation. Critical time when you come into a facility, right? Like you said, when you hit the yard, there's certain rules. There's, people want to, put you on whatever time they're on. And it sounds like you were offering them chance to do things a little bit differently. What did that look like?
Yeah, and so I would get up there and Adam, what it looked like is a Super Bowl halftime speech is what it looked like. But get busy living or get busy dying. Who's coming with me? But the truth is, it's like, look, guys, when you walk out this orientation, you got two choices, right, or three choices. Either you're going to mind your own business, you're going to do your time, you're going to take advantage of some programming, you keep your head down, or you're going to jump into recovery, make the changes necessary in your life. I'm offering you 12-step meetings. These are when they are. I'll pick you up for the meeting tonight. I'm offering you the ability to come hang out in our substance abuse room, which was my office, and be a part of the moderate treatment class. And also, your third option is you can immediately jump right back into the drug game, because anywhere I went in this state in 7 years, it didn't matter from minimum custody to the whole. I could get any drug I wanted to get at any point in time if I had the money. And
Yeah.
that's the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
So what was your plan for when you got out, and did it actually happen, or did something different happen when you got out?
oh man, dude. So I wanted to start a recovery podcast. I wrote the vision statement. I mapped it out. Today we're, 3 years deep into it in 30 countries all over the place, have sponsors, Powerless to Powerful podcast. I wanted to coach soccer. Today I'm coaching my now 12-year-old daughter. They trust me with 17 felony convictions to coach 12-year-old girls. That's a miracle. I wanted to have another baby. I have my 2-year-old now. I wanted to work in recovery. I started working in recovery as soon as I got out. I got a fingerprint clearance card signed off by the governor. I mean, that's a miracle. All the professional and financial successes and all those things were there. Because really what it was is my whole life I was always trying to weather storms. And if I just can get off probation, if I can get off parole, if my mom will let me back in, if I can get off, if I can weather the storm, things will get better. But what recovery's taught me is it's not about weathering storms, it's about learning how to dance in the rain. And recovery taught me how to dance. Life still happens, but today I get to live in the solution, and it's my job to get there as quick as I can.
I love that. And a lot of our listeners are through Strong Prison Wives and Families, the nonprofit I started when Adam was on the inside. How did you
Oh
re
my God, you got to meet my wife. She was on the Arizona Friends out of Tucson. She spoke to senators. She was at all the rallies. She lobbied for Senate bills.
I
I
can't wait
respect
to,
it.
I mean, just from the stories that you've told, I love her already. I can't wait to meet her. And just the fact that she held it down and, played mommy and daddy for so many years.
Hmm.
And I think our listeners can learn so much from this. How did you rebuild that relationship with your daughter when you got out? Because it sounds like you're close today if you're coaching soccer and all of that.
Oh yeah, and so my wife, she did such a good job, even when I didn't see my daughter for 2 years. Every present that Amazon delivered came from dad. Every new
Oh,
backpack for
Mm.
school came from dad. She thought I paid for everything. My wife, when she picked me up after that time, she had her Goodfellas moment. She was sitting on the hood of the car. But the crazy thing was, when I sat in that car, it felt like I didn't leave. And
mm,
that's a testament to our connection, the work that we put in,
Yeah.
and those 3 years of recovery that I had under my belt, because I really focused on healthy relationships. And it's based off interdependency, which is 5 characteristics: friendships, sexual relationships, wife, all the relationships. It's based off joint action, shared decisions, genuine concern for one another, honesty, and open communication. I try to bring that across the board in everything that I do today. And recovery also taught me that.
love that.
Love that. Love
But it was not
interdependence.
easy. We've had more struggles with me being out sober, and now I want to speak all over. I want to start all these businesses. I want to do X, Y, and Z. And she's going, well, what about me? You know,
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
here. I waited for you.
Well,
You
she
know,
she definitely earned.
In the words of my girlfriend Joe, you're supposed to give her piggybacks and bring her into the kitchen and feed her pancakes every day for the rest of her life for what she did.
and I do. And I
Oh,
really do. It's man. She is everything to me. I couldn't
mm,
have got through this time without her. I really truly believe that. And I have to want to change for me, but the motivating factors in my life are my wife, my kids, right? Like, that is the motivating
Yeah.
factors that help me get my feet moving a little bit quicker every day. So I started working in behavioral health a week after doing an 8-year prison sentence. I started working at Sanctuary Recovery Centers. I met the owner of Sanctuary when he came inside the prison, and I was hosting a recovery event. I did a comedy show. I did a roast, and he was our guest speaker. Fast forward 2 years, I got out. He saw me on social media and he offered me a job. And within 10 days of being out, I was working at Sanctuary. I started out as an overnight BHT and a weekend BHT. I learned the business, became the director of operations, worked on licensing, started my own license or consulting company, Streamline Consulting. Um, Reconnected with an old friend. Right now, Desert Recovery Centers. We have two 7,000 square foot homes. They are the nicest recovery homes that you have possibly seen. Go to my social media, check it out. Desert Recovery Centers. We're opening February 1st. I mean, that's getting ready to open. Through my consulting company, I had the privilege of meeting Adam and everything that he does for his cause. And we teamed up together to be able to get insurance and Affordable Care Act policies to all the reentry men and women, just like he and I, who needed that support. They didn't have an Ashley, they didn't have a Roe, right? They needed that continued support when they got out. And we were able to build a reentry program that today has 300 clients currently there today. We just moved our first 12 graduates into their own independent living. And we got another 500 in our mentorship getting ready to come out. I was able to step away from that project to work on some other things. It's a testament to suiting up, showing up every single day for life, good days and bad days. It's a wild ride, but each day, man, I just keep on putting one foot in front of the other. Chop wood, carry water. That's what they say.
Well, I'd say you're doing a whole lot more than just that, than just chopping wood and carrying water, because every person that I talk to, and I've had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time in Phoenix over these last 6 months, and getting to know not just you, but all of your peers. Everyone in the recovery community has great things to say about you. And that is a testament to the person that you are today and to the leadership that you have within this space. What I am most impressed with, well, there's a number of things that I'm really impressed with. I love that you shut it down at the end of the day. And because I want people to hear this too, you talk about making that time for your family. You set those very clear boundaries. And there are plenty of times at the end of the day, you're like, hey man, I got to go. I got soccer. I got this. It's family time. And I love and respect that, because there's a lot of people that talk about it. And we are very much, of the belief, like, you can talk about it, but man, you've got to live it. Your actions have to reflect it. That's where your credibility stems from. And I would say that's why you are held in such high regard by all of your peers. I love the fact that you're helping those others that you did time with on the inside, creating opportunities for them. That is a personal mission of mine as well. And listen, I admire what you've done, what you've created. I'm grateful to be a part of these things, to be on part of this journey with you. And what you've accomplished there in Phoenix, in the Arizona area, has really inspired me. I'm excited to see what we're going to do here in Las Vegas next.
That's it. I'm on my way. I'm coming.
Let's do it. Because listen, this door is always open, and
likewise,
we need to spend time. We need the four of us to sit down, have some dinner together, break bread in true Italian fashion, right? Like,
that's it.
It's
That's
official. Yeah, it's official once we have that meal together. So, listen, we definitely got to do this sometime soon, whether it's us coming to Phoenix or you coming out here. All of your info is up there right now. Jason Inserra, Powerless to Powerful podcast, Desert Recovery Centers. Listen, he's killing it. Make sure that you tune in to his podcast. Check it out. And for all of you who tuned in here with us, it's been another incredible episode of Gritability, Power of Perseverance. Man, we love you guys. We'll see you back here on the next episode.